massive cast of characters. Who is everybody and how do they fit in together? There are so many people in this case, and the Chad Daybell trial and the whole Lori Vallow cult craziness. Here is a video to help untangle some of that mess. I've seen people do like these one massive slide or image and there's all of these arrows and the flow chart from hell. So no, that's not. I'm hoping to kind of break things down a little bit. If you want more of this kind of thing, let me know with some of the other players, because this isn't going beyond Chad and Lori's families. And as we know, there are so many other people involved. All right. First, we're going to start out with Chad and Tammy's own little family. There are 5 children. So this is Chad and Tammy, I don't know how many years before she passed away was murdered. But that's pretty much, seems like pretty close to what they looked like within a couple of years anyway of her death. Then on the other side, you see their 5 children. This is as they looked on 48 Hours when they were on that show defending their father. And so, yeah, we've got from left to right, there's Emma, who is now married and her last name is Murray. Then their son, Mark. Then their daughter, Leah, I think it's Leah. And she's also married, and her married name is Murphy. So we have Murray and a Murphy. That can get confusing, so we'll try to keep them straight. Then there's Garth, and then Seth. So to clarify a little more information on them, the 2 siblings who testified for the defense were Emma and Garth. And then Emma's husband, Joe Murray, also testified. So a little bit more on all of them. So Emma's the one who lives diagonal across the street. I'd say kitty corner, but there's people, it's a regionalism. Some people hate that. Catty corner is the other word. We'll say diagonal. Emma lived diagonal on this intersection there. You can watch one of my last videos about, I had all maps and all of that shows some of this stuff. And it wasn't my voice, so sorry I'm getting a little scratchy. But Emma is a 3rd grade teacher. Horrifyingly, if you've seen that video about her sticking her tongue out and the way she defends her dad too, I just throws her mother under the bus again and again. It just pisses me off. Anyway, she's a 3rd grade teacher at the same school that her mother Tammy was librarian and the computer teacher at. Mark, he was the one that was serving an LDS mission when his mother died. He's also the youngest, I believe, from my understanding, and that and this makes me so mad, that Chad got the funeral done so quickly for his own, the hoopla as he called it, that his son wouldn't have had a chance to come home. Now, 30-ish years ago, policies once were that if a missionary goes out and loses a family member, they understand that they can't come home, that they stay on their mission. That's changed. And it makes me so sad that Mark was not able to come home for his mother's funeral because his father was selfish enough to just rush the whole thing through. But he was home in time for the June 2020 warrant served at the property when Tylee and JD's remains were found. So assuming he served his whole 24 months, as young men do, 2020, that means he would have left probably within a few weeks here or there, depending on how. There's a whole transfer situation. I don't get into that, but likely he left around June of 2018 for his mission, which means he was probably 18 years old at that point, born around the year 2000. And we have Garth, who testified. Interestingly enough, he was living in Provo. I believe he was going to BYU, the main campus there in Provo, and he moved to Rexburg when his dad told him his apartment in Provo was haunted. Okay. Whatever, Dad, whatever you say. Which also makes me even more curious as to why Garth felt it was okay to work at a quote-unquote haunted house for Halloween. Didn't that freak his parents out at all? Like, that maybe it would attract evil spirits or something? This just strikes me as really odd. That Garth would move from a different state because dad says my apartment is haunted, and then he's going to work at a place that you would think his parents wouldn't be cool with him working at. Even if it's not really haunted, it would be, attracting the dark energy or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but this case does not make sense, does it? So here are Lori's. Her little family, her 5 husbands. Yeah, so she graduated from high school in 1991 and then got married pretty quickly. I believe it was 91 anyway, unless she graduated in 92. But I think she graduated in 91, married for 6 weeks. Nelson Yanes. Don't know much about him, and he probably wants to kind of stay off the grid. Don't blame him. Then we have William, her next husband, who also likes to stay off the grid. Understandably, he is the father of Colby. Then that lasted like a year, if that, and then they divorced. Then she marries Joe Ryan a few years later. She actually did not marry for a few years. So she and Colby were like the little twinsies going around, and Colby has happy memories of being with his mother when she was a single mom. Joe and Lori have Tylee together, and Joe adopts Colby. That's why Colby has the last name of Ryan, even though William was his father. So it sounds like they did not have the greatest of marriages. This is the husband that, if you're familiar with the case, Lori had talked about telling people, and she said this publicly at some event, of that, oh, I was so mad at him. It was either I need to go to the temple or kill him. Okay, then. So they divorced. He died in April of 2018, years after the divorce, mind you, but his body was found days after he died. He died alone in his apartment, in theory, and cause of death was ruled natural causes, heart failure, something like that. But now with all of the other suspicious weirdness surrounding Lori, they're wondering if that might have actually been suspicious, especially because we do know that her brother Alex did time for tasing Joe in the privates. So it's not a huge leap to think she could have convinced Alex to do something else to him. So this was, of course, before she actually met Chad, but knowing that what Lori is capable of, it wouldn't surprise me at all if she and Alex did something to him. We just don't know. Then she marries Charles Vallow, and that's the one that lasted the longest. They married in 2005. He converted to the church for her. I've heard all kinds of things about what a great guy Charles was. I've heard some disturbing things potentially about they were a little, maybe inappropriate with the kids. So I can get into that some other time if people are interested. But Charles and Lori, then they adopted JJ. So that's why we have Colby and Tylee Ryan, and then JJ Vallow. I can expand the family tree later, but just for those who are curious, JJ's biological grandparents are Kay and Larry Woodcock. So it's one of Kay's sons who had JJ, and they couldn't take care of him, drugs and other things. And then Kay's brother Charles said, hey, we would like to adopt him. So JJ was a special needs child, born with drugs in his system, autistic, had some special challenges. And Charles and Lori then adopted him. So again, Charles and Kay are siblings, or were. And then, of course, he dies July of 2019 when Alex shoots him in the chest and claims self-defense on Lori's orders because she and Chad wanted to be together. So she is currently in Arizona awaiting trial for the conspiracy to kill Charles, as well as the attempted killing and conspiracy to kill Brandon Boudreaux, who is the ex-husband of her niece. When I'll show you a picture of Melanie as a baby in a moment. But yes, so after Charles is dead, then a few months later, after her children are dead and buried on Chad's property, and after they kill Chad's wife, Tammy, then a couple of weeks later, Chad and Lori marry in Hawaii. Here we can see her children. So we've got Colby Ryan, the oldest, He's the son of the second husband, adopted by Jill Ryan. By the time Laurie moved to Rexburg with Tylee and JJ, he was married. Fortunately, he wasn't any younger, because he would have been a victim too, probably. Tylee, of course, is Joe's daughter, and then JJ, who was adopted and biological grandson of Kay and Larry Woodcock. Okay, this is Laurie's family of origin. So I've color-coded things you can see everybody. There are 5 children in her family. It looks like 6 because one of them is a brother-in-law at this point. So we have Laurie there. She's marked in with the red arrow. Her parents, Barry and Janice, are in the yellow. Janice has passed away. She died after the Netflix documentary was filmed. I keep trying to find her death date, and it seems pretty hidden online. I'm not sure where it was. If somebody knows and can point me in that direction, let me know. Then her 2 brothers, Alex and Adam. So the one standing right next to her is Alex. He's the one who tased Joe and shot Charles, and later told Zulema, I think I've become their fall guy. I'm either a man of God or I am not. And then dropped dead the day after Tammy's body was exhumed. So that's Alex. He's very much, he believed everything Chad said. He drank the Kool-Aid, thought Charles was a zombie, all of that. Then there is Adam on the far right, the other blue circle there. He's the brother who was like, okay, Laurie's losing it. And of course, Janice and others were like, oh, who cares if she goes to the temple a lot? She's extra righteous. And he's like, hey, no, something's off here, Mom. Nope, something's off. So Adam and Charles tried to do an intervention with Laurie. They were going to try to maybe even get in her stake president, that's an ecclesiastical leader, that if he could come get involved, find out about her affair, yank her temple recommend, that might wake her up. She got wind that Adam had flown into town, and then they expedited the whole plan to get Charles killed. He was killed the very next day before they could do the intervention. Then we have Stacy, who is one of her sisters. She had 2, so Laurie has 2 sisters. Stacy, who passed away in 98 from complications due to diabetes, and although her death now is starting to sound a little suspicious as well, if you're interested, let me know. I could go into that. Then her other sister is Summer, now Summer Shiflett. Stacy had a rocky marriage. That was her husband above her there in the green, Steve Cope, and together they had a daughter, Melanie. That's little baby Melanie there, circled in purple. She grew up to marry Brandon Boudreaux. And because her mother died when she was so young, Laurie became a mother figure to her to a great degree. And then after she got married and had several kids, she started to drink the Chad and Laurie Kool-Aid, and then eventually divorced her husband, Brandon, tried to get Brandon killed. Alex is the one who shot at him, fortunately missed. And Laurie is also in Arizona awaiting trial on his attempted murder. Again, fortunately, he is still living. The other sister is Summer, and I hear she's a bit of an odd duck, but I don't know much about her. It's just opinions of other people I've seen online. So that is Laurie's family. If you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe, click the little notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Those are the basic players. I didn't even get into the Woodcocks, didn't go into Melanie Pulaski much, didn't talk about Stacy's death. There's so many people and elements. If you want more of that, let me know. I can do a video about more of the people involved in the story and how they all intersect. But hopefully that gives some clarity on a little bit of that. And if this is something that was helpful for you, or someone else who's just hearing about the case and is overwhelmed because of all the different people, then yes, pass it along to them. Please share. So as I'm going to crash and go to bed in just a little bit, I'm going to grab myself some hot chocolate because gotta have something sweet in the middle of all this bitter. Go get yourself some.